So food waste, one of the biggest problems facing society today. Each year, we waste around 1.5 billion tonnes of food. And like the Fresh Check guys told us, that's around 1/3 of all the food we produce each year. That's around 500 billion pounds of lost value. And if food waste were actually a country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter after the US and China. And it's actually quite a difficult problem to deal with. Unlike other waste materials like metal, paper and plastic, which have fairly well established commercial recycling applications, food degrades very quickly, making it very hard to redistribute to people who need to eat first and foremost. But even after that, once the Fresh Check has gone red, it's very hard to turn rotting food into useful stuff that people want to buy. And that's where our weird and wonderful solution comes in. And it's based around a very special insect called the black soldier fly. So black soldier fly larvae are nature's ideal food waste conversion engine. They can reduce food waste volume by 95% over a rapid 2-week growing cycle, and they're found throughout the world, so potentially a really global solution. So as these insects chew through food waste, they essentially synthesize and concentrate very low-value, dispersed carbohydrates and sugars into highly concentrated and valuable proteins and fats. And in doing so, they reduce pathogens like E. coli by up to 99%. Our innovative engineering and post-processing technology allows us to optimize the productivity of the insects at all stages and allows us to create 3 high-value products downstream. First of all, we refine the protein fraction into an animal feed that's high in micronutrients and minerals like calcium, which are critical for the digestive systems in farmed fish and poultry. And for farmed fish specifically, the insect meal provides a very sustainable alternative to fish meal, which is currently the status quo feed, and it requires fishing for anchovies and sardines in South America and shipping it to Scotland to feed farmed salmon, which is quite an unsustainable and a logical model. We also take the fat content and make it into biodiesel using a biological process that's more cheap and more sustainable than current feedstocks like used cooking oil. And there's also a natural byproduct that comes out of the system called frass, which acts as an organic fertiliser and a biopesticide. So an organic alternative to some of the harmful agrochemicals we're using in the ground each year. So I think the message for this slide is really about, instead of breaking food waste down into simple building blocks like methane, which is what the gold standard anaerobic digestion technologies seek to do today, we're actually trying to build the food waste back up, using the insect's amazing metabolism to create more complex and more valuable chemical compounds. The combined market for these 3 products is over £5.5 billion in the UK alone. And just think that the food waste, our input, our gold, is actually at negative cost. We get paid to take the food waste in addition to actually selling the products at the back end. We've got the right team to take this forward, being 4 University of Cambridge graduates with backgrounds in biochemistry, biology, engineering and business. And you can see here the 75% beard ratio, which seems to be a good thing for an insect and a food waste type business. And we're actually really lucky to have the support of several key partners over in the UK. And I know that some of the supermarkets in France, actually the insect industry is actually, I'd say, quite advanced. And I know Carrefour has been doing some interesting things as well. And we've also been supported through some small competition winnings and some grant opportunities as well. So we've built our demonstration system. We're quite proud of it, but we're actually right now fundraising for the next step, which is a large commercial pilot plant in Cambridge. So looking to get some partners and some final funding in place for that. And the ultimate aim for our business is to create small, decentralised processing facilities that are tightly aligned to sources of agricultural, industrial and municipal food waste. So again, I think the word food waste has such a negative connotation, but we see it as actually a positive opportunity, even after people can't actually eat it. So again, contributing to this idea of the circular economy and creating a more sustainable model for food production going forward in the future. So thank you very much.
I started first. I have a question regarding the targeted market you would like to focus on because of the regulation in Europe.
So I think, first of all, the regulations around the insect world in general, I think there's it's a broad church. Some people are looking to sell crickets for human consumption. We're looking for the animal feed market. But I think overall, there's almost a sense of camaraderie among the industry to try and get these regulations through the EU. Currently, it's around the animal byproducts regulation and some issues around the exact process you need to go through to farm these insects. But indications are, we've actually had some really good reports from the EU come out to show that insects are safe, even more safe than most livestock and most other animal sources out there. So we've got some, silently optimistic hopes that will actually change, maybe before even before the end of the year, but hopefully first part of 2017. we're actually trying to focus on pre-customer food waste, which means stuff before it gets to the consumer's house. It's much cleaner to get a supermarket or a food processor to give us their slightly damaged food waste to start with, because we can track the origin and we can show that's actually a safe source to feed to the insects. Once it's gone to people's bins at home, there could be batteries, there could be heavy metals. It's very hard to track. So to start with, we're trying to get, from a regulatory perspective, we're starting with relatively clean sources of food waste that might be rotten, but at least are not mixed with other types of household waste.
Hi. First of all, I love this business, and one of the reasons is that we have made an investment in this area.
Yeah, yeah.
And so my question will be a little bit oriented by this experience.
Yeah, yeah.
First question regarding the choice of the black soldier fly. Isn't it sensitive because disease or frost sensitivity could jeopardize your business?
Yeah.
And especially with waste, which is not very
homogeneous.
Yeah, you don't know the specification of the entrant. And second question regarding the fact that you have 3 revenue streams on 3 commodity markets that make maybe the sales more difficult to reach break even.
Sure. So good questions. I'll start with the first one. We chose the black soldier fly because we weren't so much interested in raising insects per se. We're trying to look at the food waste transformation aspect. So taking nutrients and creating more valuable forms of those nutrients to then sell at a higher value. And through our research and through our early prototypes, we found that among mealworms, among black soldier flies, among crickets, black soldier flies actually have the fastest conversion of nutrients, and they also seem to be more suited to higher bacterial loads and more heterogeneous food waste sources, like you mentioned. So we actually see that as almost the better catalyst for food waste transformation specifically. There are other people, of course, raising crickets, which require fairly good quality cereals as feedstocks, which is like any other agricultural operation. But we were actually quite passionate about this idea of taking stuff that no one wants and turning into other stuff. So that's why we chose that variable. And also, the black soldier fly, just again getting into the details, but the adults actually have no moving mouth parts. So there's actually no disease vector risk, unlike many other species of houseflies and blowflies. So from a regulatory perspective, there's actually been some good academic studies to show this is actually one of the species that is most suited to commercialization because there is less risk of them spreading disease and it's easier to get more comfortable with the regulatory environment. In terms of our business model with the 3 different products, I think for the biodiesel, for example, that's probably more of an area where we see the developing market context being more relevant. The off-grid, community-operated type system where energy is more of a bigger issue, maybe more so than the EU. So even though we put it up there on the sliders all together, we'd probably split up the animal feed and the fertiliser part of the business with the biodiesel part of the business targeting different sections. So we see that food waste loop being much more easy to sell through when you're selling animal feeds and fertilisers and taking food waste, and then putting in more of a community-operated developing market system for the energy side of things.